Would you be the jerk for sneaking vegetarian food into someone's meal? We'll get into that in a bit, but first, am I the jerk for not letting my husband attend his sister's wedding? My husband, 31-year-old male, and myself, 28-year-old female, are expecting our first child this May 2025. We found out very early in September 2024. We didn't keep this a secret from anyone, and in fact, shared the news in person with his family and my family on the day we found out. During this period, his sister, 29-year-old female, was getting to know someone and getting engaged in October 2024. It's sort of an arranged marriage, as she was set up and decided to get engaged only after 3 months of speaking to the guy. Her parents, my in-laws, were happy that she liked him and wanted to quickly move forward. She's been wanting to get married for the past 5 years. After the engagement party in October, there was a brief discussion on when the wedding would be. His sister had mentioned that she wanted to be married by no later than April 2025. After our initial OB visit in September, my husband had mentioned to his parents that I would not be able to travel after 34 weeks, as per the doctor. His mother decided to ignore this information and not address it. His sister and mother decided to plan on having the wedding in April 2025, even though they had not booked anything. His sister's fiancé lives in Texas, a 3.5-hour flight away. I briefly mentioned that I would not be able to attend in April as it would be too close to my due date, but wished them all the best in their planning. February 2025 rolls around and they decided to have the wedding this upcoming April 19th of 2025 in Texas. I tell my husband that because I'll be almost 37 weeks pregnant that we would definitely not be able to go. A month prior, during a huge fight we had, his mom had told him it's okay if I don't go, but that he would have to attend. At the time, I was not opposed to it, as I thought it would be fine. 2 weeks ago, we met with my OB, and I decided to ask her for advice while he was also in the room. I asked her for confirmation that it's not a problem if he were to travel during my 37th week. She looks at both of us and says, "Absolutely not." We both stare at her shocked, and she continues and says, "This would be like rolling the dice. I wouldn't recommend it. If something were to happen, I would not be able to slow anything down." He unenthusiastically agrees and says it's messed up that they picked a date knowing that we most likely would not be able to attend. It's now April, and he just told his mother that we'll both for sure not be able to attend. My husband and in-laws have a huge fight, and he explains the situation. So his dad threatens that he wouldn't attend either if he's not at the wedding. I don't budge after he tells me this, and calmly state that he simply cannot attend 2 weeks before my due date, as we're both having this baby together. So, am I the jerk for not letting him attend his sister's wedding? Not only is OP not the jerk in my opinion, they can't even be the jerk in the way that OP's even asking. OP said, "Am I the jerk for not letting him attend his sister's wedding?" As if the husband himself isn't actually volunteering to stay. It's not like the husband here is torn and is like, "OP, please, you're the one who has to make this crucial decision. Will you or won't you let me go?" Emily Dreamer LM commented, "Not the jerk. Your in-laws really looked at the whole pregnancy timeline and said, 'Nah, let's gamble.' Like, did they think the baby would just reschedule to be more convenient for them? Your husband is about to become a dad. His priority should be with you, not across the country at a wedding when you could literally go into labor any second. His family acting like this is some wild betrayal is crazy. He's missing 1 day. You would be the one missing your partner while possibly giving birth. Huge difference." Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy getting to decide whether or not all of these people are jerks, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. Our next story is, am I the jerk for sending my little sister a vet bill after she tried to get my horses to breed? I, 33-year-old female, am a horse breeder and own 10 horses. I have a little sister, 19-year-old female, who was a surprise baby for my parents. They didn't think they could have any more after me, so she's quite babied even now. They begged me to take her on to help her get some work, and I agreed but made it clear that she would have to work hard and there would be no slacking. She has generally been fine with it and enjoys being around the horses, though I do have to light a fire under her butt at times to get her to keep working. The problem, however, arose when a local animal rescue asked me to help them. They had a stallion surrendered to them, and they didn't have the capabilities to take care of him. I had room, so I agreed to take him. I've also arranged a full genetic testing on him to ensure he's alright, as it seems like he was gotten through backyard breeders. I've also made an appointment to get him gelded, as I don't know enough about him to risk him not being gelded. He has his own paddock and is kept in a separate stable than my own horses just to be safe. I'm slowly socializing him, but I'm taking no risks. I've been letting my sister sit in on my breeding planning for 2025, and my main stars are going to be Dante and Willow. They've had 4 successful and healthy foals who are going to go into dressage. I know they work well together, and Willow has had a 2-year break, so she'll be ready to go again this year. The first warning bell I overlooked was that my sister asked about the new stallion and when I would be breeding him. I explained that he'd not be bred as there was too many unknowns. I don't know his health, and I don't have a good enough grasp of his temperament. She protested that he was pretty though, prettier than Dante, and I explained that there was more to this than looks. I thought she understood and didn't think further on this. Yesterday, an emergency came up and I had to leave my sister alone for an hour. I told her that she could take an hour break. When I came back, I found to my horror that she had put Willow into the paddock with the new stallion. I asked her what the freak she was doing, and she told me she just thought they would work well together and she was doing me a favor. I got Willow out of there, but not before the new stallion bucked and reared quite a bit from stress. I got Willow out of there and then set about calming him down. I told my sister to go home and not come back, shouting at her quite a bit. I then had a vet come out and check them both fully to ensure that they had not hurt each other. My one relief is Willow isn't in estrus yet. I had the bill sent to my sister at my parents' house. They called me today in a panic asking what the heck this was. When I explained, they told me that I was being unfair and she didn't understand. That she couldn't pay this and it was being cruel and my sister was crying. I told them that she did understand, she just didn't care. That she could pay or they could pay, but I wasn't. They are freaking out over how they'll afford this. Am I taking it too far? I would say OP's not the jerk, but honestly, if they want to make sure that these people are going to stay committed to paying that bill, I feel like OP may have to lawyer up, which kind of sucks because it's so messy involving your family in something like that. But let's be real, vet bills are expensive, horses are very expensive. Having the vet come out and check the horses, that's probably a very expensive bill, so that might be more than even small claims court would handle. Also, the Abyss commented, "Horse owner, absolutely freaking not the jerk. What the freak was she thinking? He could have ended your mare. Bet she wouldn't like that bill, or the lost income afterwards." OP responded commenting, "Exactly, I freaked out and was shaking so badly. Willow is a total baby and would never have hurt him, but he is a huge, screaming unknown." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my husband to just be a father? I had a playdate with my friend this morning with our babies, and my little one napped in the car on the ride home. So I stopped for coffee to extend her nap, so napped from 9:30 to 10 a.m. She was fed at 9:20 before I left the playdate. I get home, and my husband immediately tries feeding her. I tell him she just woke up from a nap and she's probably not hungry because she just ate before it. He said he knows his baby and tries to feed her anyway. She fusses and arches her back because she's not hungry. He says it's because we have the wrong nipple size. I begin to explain to him our current routine I've been doing with her while he's at work. I'm still on maternity leave. She wakes up, she plays for around an hour and a half and then eats and then goes down for a nap. He says nonsense, she's probably tired and goes to lay her down for a nap. It's only been 45 minutes since I've been home. I tell him no, she's not tired enough for a nap yet, she's just going to fuss. She's starting to understand that crib means sleep and fights it hard if she's not tired enough. Sure enough, she starts crying as soon as they step foot in the nursery. This is where the argument comes. He tells me I'm being controlling and not letting him be a dad. I tell him I'm just trying to help him and give him pointers because every week is different with a baby that small. He tells me I'm being a helicopter. I tell him I'm just trying to help as he always complains that his daughter thinks he's a stranger because he's working all day. He only works 4 days a week, by the way. I left to run errands and left him with the baby to bond and stuff. He starts texting me while I'm out. Tell me when to feed her and put her down. She's crying. Should I do it now or later? When's her nap time? She won't stop crying. What does she need? Actual copy and paste from my messages. I can tell this is condescending and he's doing it to be petty. I text out a long rant that I'm just trying to help him so he doesn't have a hard time with her because he gets very discouraged when she's super fussy with him, and I try to be the bigger person and emphasize that my help, it comes out of a place of love. And after my long heartfelt message that is way too long to copy and paste here, I get this. Is it okay to put her to bed? When's her nap time? How can I tell if she's tired? Now I'm mad at this point and tell him to stop being a jerk, and I'm not arguing with him. I get home and the baby wakes up from a nap and he comes out with her and says, "What do I do now? What does she need? Should I change her first? Should I feed her?" At this point, I'm seeing red but just stay silent, and he keeps going and starts poking me. I tell him to just go be a freaking father. He won't stop telling me how controlling I am and won't let him be a dad. I'm like, dude, I was just trying to let you know what I noticed is currently working for our daughter. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Honestly, I think a lot of the story here is kind of lost in translation, just in the sense that you can't really read inflection through text. So while what the husband is saying may very well just be like spiteful or sarcastic and trying to just upset OP, you can't really tell that through, "Is it okay to put her to bed? When's her nap time?" Because to me, that kind of sounds like an honest question. It makes me take a step back and say, well, listen, you told him you got it all wrong. This is a routine that you're not following that works for the baby. And then when he turns around and says, "Is it okay to do this? When do I do that?" It sounds like instead of advising him, OP just starts blowing up. Sin1982 commented, "I recently heard someone say this to a new mom. Don't be the expert on your baby. You will be the expert on your kid forever. The school will call you to pick them up. You will be the one who plans their birthday parties, who plans their meal because you know what they eat and what not. You will be the one who knows when they have gym class and which present they want for Christmas. If you tell your partner that he's already falling behind on kid knowledge now, he will let go and never pick it up again. Yes, he will do things differently and he will do things wrong according to your schedule, but as long as he's not hurting your child, you should shut up and let him get to know his child. Build his own routine with her." Basic Bench 823 commented, "I see your point, but no one wants to listen to a baby crying or seeing them clearly resisting feeding or a nap. She's allowed to tell them that, hey, we just did those, and I would think he could take that information and do something else with the baby." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for forbidding my parents of bringing my little brother, 10, and sister, 7, when coming to my 24-year-old male place? I moved out as soon as I got into college, and from that shared college apartment, I moved straight into my own place. I got a nice downtown loft for myself in the same city I went to college. This is about 7 hours from my hometown, so as you can imagine, I was barely home over the last 6 years. My dad, 45, really misses me a lot. He raised me as a single parent after my bio mom abandoned me postpartum, and my stepmom, 39, has also missed me a lot and was a fantastic parent to me throughout the years. I miss them both a lot and we never had much conflict, up until now. Our main problem is my siblings. As you can probably imagine from the timeline I described, I had little to no contact with them really, but the times I do see them, they're a nightmare. For example, this year, I stayed in my parents' home from Christmas Eve to New Year's, and in that short time period, they managed to break my Nintendo Switch and shatter my phone screen. Both times, neither object was left unattended near them. My Switch was swiped from my room by going through my things while I was away and broke it. My phone, they kicked a ball at me while I was texting, causing me to drop it, which shattered the screen. This is just the most recent example of them being like this. My place is essentially one big open space. It's a big loft, only doors to the bathroom, obviously, just one big space. And it's mostly occupied by my music gear, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of it. It's more of a I live in my studio situation than a I have a studio at home situation. I don't even own a bed. I sleep on a futon. So whenever they want to visit, I just tell them no and that I'll go to them instead. I only ever host at my place whenever my grandparents have my siblings, but this is starting to annoy them and they wanted to know why. So I told them that the reason I don't host them at my place is because I don't want my siblings in here, because they'll break things and I don't want to deal with that. My parents are hurt, saying that my brother and sister should be more important than money or possessions, and that I moved away from home without ever making an effort to be in the lives of my siblings, which I won't really deny. They also say that my siblings are hurt from me not putting any effort into being in their lives, especially as the family talks a lot about me near them. I love my parents, but I think they're being unreasonable expecting me to allow my siblings here, where they'll be surrounded by thousands of dollars of sensitive gear when they have a track record of breaking things. Am I the jerk? Family or not, I think OP's not the jerk simply for the simple fact that it's not fair to expect somebody to host you in their house, especially when it's literally a studio where OP themselves don't have a bed. How dare you not let your 10 or younger siblings run around in essentially your glorified bedroom with everything that exists to your name unopposed. And also, I think it's fair enough if you have opinions about whether or not OP should be trying to have a relationship with their much younger siblings, but I think the fact remains that OP's not obligated to do so. Just because they are related doesn't mean that they have to be trying to have a relationship. Would that make OP a bad person? Travel Girl commented, "Not the jerk. Family is welcome to visit and stay in a hotel, and all meetups will be in public places. Or when you visit, you get a hotel room too to keep the feral little kids from getting into your stuff. Dad and stepmom can visit the studio anytime they want, as presumably they know not to wreck things." Our next story is, am I the jerk for not giving my coworker a ride after he didn't spot me $1 at the vending machine? I usually give my coworker a ride on the way back home from work, usually driving 5 miles out of my way per day to drop him off at his place because he doesn't have a car. I've been doing that for about 2 years now and haven't asked for anything, and he's never offered. Yesterday, I was at the vending machine and wanted a soda. I was short $1 and had left my wallet in my car. I would usually go get my wallet, but it takes forever to wait for the elevators at my workplace, so I asked if he could spot me $1 for the soda. He straight up refused and said, "Just use your own money, man. I don't really give money to friends or coworkers. Sorry." I was taken aback by that comment, probably because I've spent well over $1,500 in gas over the past 2 years for this guy, and he can't even spot me $1 just this once? I got pretty upset by that, and once it hit 5, I told him I'm not giving him free rides anymore. He seemed upset and said that I was petty. Am I the jerk? OP's not the jerk. I'm assuming this guy hasn't gone out of his way to do any kind of gift or gesture or anything. I mean, it's crazy to me that this guy goes, "Listen, I know you give me free rides and all, but I don't really do the whole giving money thing. If you want that Pepsi, you're just gonna have to figure it out yourself. See you at 5. I think some very good people would have a very legitimate crash out over somebody acting like that. Prestigious Card 16 commented, "Not the jerk. I wouldn't even call it petty in my humble opinion. The coworker doesn't believe in involving money with friends, not a terrible idea, but completely ignores all the money you've spent on them over time. I would imagine even if they originally were, they are no longer appreciative of the rides and more so expect them. I think it would be best to no longer give rides as a favor and charge full value if you want to continue giving them. They've made it clear that they would not do the same for you." Side note, my brother used to be a server at a restaurant and gave a dishwasher a ride home for weeks. He never asked for anything, but did it just to help out. He only stopped after he watched that dishwasher take money off of his table while bussing it. Good deeds are great, but always be mindful of your surroundings. Sometimes the cookie just isn't enough for the mouse. Our next story is, am I the jerk for refusing to be the main caretaker for my elderly parents? My parents are both in their 80s and live about 2 hours from me. For reference, I have a sibling that lives right down the road from them. Neither of them have aged well. They always refuse to be active and have lived very sedentary lives in their retirement, so aging has been hard on them. My father especially has struggled with type 2 diabetes and dementia/Alzheimer's. He is very combative, and I mean about everything, which is how he's always been, but dementia and old age has made it worse. He directs a lot of his anger towards me and is especially mad that I'm trying to get them to move into assisted living because they fall constantly and need so much help. Anytime he disagrees with me about anything, he starts screaming and calling me names including fat butt and the thing. The thing hurts especially hard because I'm his daughter, and he's reducing me to something that's hardly human. He will say, "Don't look at the thing over there. She's so ugly she might break your face," or just ridiculous stuff. He does this when he's completely lucid and remembering everything or everyone. Or he'll say, "Don't feed the thing," when my mom tries to offer me food. I tried so hard to ignore this treatment, but once he did it in front of my kids, I put my foot down and stopped visiting. My mother now wants me to come to her 3 times plus a week to help with cooking, cleaning, helping dress my father, etc. I've said no because the way he treats me is terrible and I have to look out for my own well-being. She says that I just need to ignore it because he's old and grumpy. She says I take things too personally and I'm obligated to help them because they raised me. Am I the jerk for saying that they either need a full-time nurse or assisted living? OP's not the jerk here. Honestly, it's an open and shut case that somebody that is so, I'm not trying to get demonetized, but the AB user kind of word, you're not obligated to be forced to spend any amount of time around somebody like that. Fit Bumblebee 6420 commented, and the sibling down the road is male, I'm guessing? You don't have to put up with meanness to be a good daughter. Tell your mom their options with you clearly. If she agrees, good. If not, don't argue, just keep referring her back to your options. Not the jerk. OP responded commenting, yes, my brother never gets this treatment. Thank you for saying that. I do want to be there for my mom, so I'm just going to keep repeating her options. Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law to get out of my daughter's baby shower? I, 47-year-old female, have a daughter, 25. She's currently 26 weeks pregnant with her second child, a girl. Her first child, Philip, was stillborn 2 years ago at 38 weeks, a little boy. When she lost him, she asked us to take apart the nursery before she got home and get rid of the baby equipment. She saved his baby book, his ultrasound photos, and the outfit she planned to bring him home in, along with a lock of his hair and a memory box. She'd had a baby shower for Philip when she was pregnant, but her grief around his death was so strong that she couldn't handle having the nursery and baby things. We offered to return the baby shower gifts to the givers. Most kindly refused and asked us to donate the items, except my husband's sister Rachel, 43. She made a huge deal out of my daughter being hysterical and constantly loudly talked about how ridiculous it was to take apart the nursery. We kept her away from my daughter and only allowed her to return to family functions when she promised to stop bringing it up. We recently held a baby shower for my daughter's new baby girl. Rachel, along with the rest of my husband's female relatives, were invited. She kept making quiet remarks to everyone that we were tacky for having a baby shower for a second child, but since she didn't get near my daughter, I ignored it. When my daughter began opening gifts, it hit the fan. She loudly said, "If you hadn't torn Philip's nursery apart and gotten rid of everything, you wouldn't be here begging for presents for this baby." My daughter froze and just stared off into space. Tears started running down her face. I just said, "Rachel, please leave." She refused and started arguing with me. I took her present out of the pile, walked to the door, and threw it out. I yelled, "Get out now!" And my husband came into the room and asked what happened. His mom told him, and he physically picked up his sister and put her down outside the door. Now the family is divided over whether I should have yelled at her to get out and thrown her present. Am I the jerk? Update, we're having a family meeting without Rachel while my daughters and their partners are away at Hot Springs this weekend. We'll update again after the meeting. I don't think OP's the jerk here. For whatever reason, Rachel had so much spite in their heart, maybe it's jealousy that people are even willing to help OP's daughter out. I think what OP did here is just having their daughters back. Maybe you could say that OP maybe shouldn't have chucked the present out, but really it's like kind of symbolic, right? Like we don't want you or anything you have to give here. Pleasant Test 6088 commented, "Not the jerk. If anything, you were overly generous by trying to ignore her cruel, thoughtless remarks prior to the final horrific outburst. Your daughter's welfare was your priority and must remain so. I can't imagine how heartbreaking the loss of her baby was, and a reminder of that so callously is unbelievable. Your sister-in-law took a joyous occasion, one full of hope and promise, and poured acid all over it. You and your husband both should be commended for your restraint. I hope your daughter enjoys a healthy pregnancy, and that your granddaughter brings you all much joy." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my family I refuse to be a caretaker for my elderly parents? A bit of background. I, 25-year-old male, and my husband, 24-year-old male, live just outside of the town I grew up in with my dad and my stepmom. Pretty much the moment I was 10, I was turned into a task monkey. I did all the shopping, all the cleaning, everything. When I was 12, I broke 3 ribs in a car accident, but I was still expected to clean the entire 3-story house. I moved out when I was 19, and my husband's family helped us get a lovely house for us and our cat, Alpine. I'm in contact with very few of my family, just a few cousins and my sister. My dad and stepmom recently went through a major car accident and are unable to get around the house easily. I knew from the grapevine that they were struggling a lot when I left, mostly because they were so used to me doing the chores, they had no idea how to do most of them. My aunt reached out asking if I would be willing to step in and help out, but I flat out told her I'm done being their caretaker and hung up. My wonderful husband is on my side, as are most of the cousins and my sister. But most of the adults are sending nasty messages and I'm just worried. Am I the jerk? I can only speak as if I were in OP's position, and I know I would not be feeling any differently than OP does. I would be just as done being the family caretaker. I mean, I can't tell you how much my stomach would immediately drop from picking up that call with the aunt. Hey, would you be willing to come over and help out? Probably regularly? Like, excuse me? I just escaped that. I'm not going right back into it voluntarily. Wild Ticket 1413 commented, "Not the jerk. You have no obligation to help them out. Tell your family members who are messaging you to see what kind of care service their health and/or auto insurance will provide. Suggest they hire a cleaning service, or if they're able and they think your parents need help, they can help your parents." Our next story is, am I the jerk for sneaking vegetarian food into my father-in-law's meal? My fiance, 23-year-old male, and I, 23-year-old female, plan to get married in October of this year. I'd like to start off by saying that I'm not looking to end my relationship with my fiance. I'm a vegetarian, my fiance is not, nor are his parents. This has never been a problem for me, for him, or his mother, but my father-in-law has always been weird about it. For example, whenever we all go out to eat and I order something vegetarian, he always gives me weird looks. He also always tries to convince me to eat meat, saying things like, "You're really missing out, you know you want some of this, that fake meat will never be better than the real thing, etc." Yesterday, my fiance and I invited his parents over to our house for dinner. I made spaghetti and meatballs for my fiance and his parents, spaghetti and vegetarian meatballs for me. I just put them in two different pots and put them both on the table. When his parents were grabbing their food, his father happens to grab the spaghetti and meatless meatballs instead of the real ones. Now here's where I might be the jerk. After I see him put the meatless meatballs on his plate instead, I decide not to tell him. He sits down, finishes the whole plate, and even gets a second helping. Once his parents left and me and my fiance were cleaning up, I tell him about the whole fake meat thing. My fiance gets really mad at me and immediately calls his dad. His dad then calls me and starts berating me on the phone, saying I'm a psycho and my fiance should leave me for trying to poison him. I try to defend myself by saying that I wasn't the one that gave him the fake meat and he grabbed them himself, which is 100% true. My fiance says that I should have told him which is which, but I genuinely don't see the problem. I know he isn't allergic to soybeans or anything, so I don't see the harm in trying vegetarian food once. I think I might be the jerk because usually my fiance always defends me when his father and I get into arguments like this, but the fact that he isn't worries me. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Update, a bit of a quick update, but after reading your comments, I've decided I'm going to apologize to my father-in-law. Whether I was in the wrong or not, it wasn't right not to tell him what he was eating. You know, I'm gonna be honest, I really get where OP's coming from. I don't really want to say that OP could be the jerk or that either side is the jerk. That being said, there is a lot of truth that OP should be transparent about what they're serving the people. And as satisfying as it was to silently watch him eat those vegetarian meatballs and go back for seconds, it's not fair to serve them something they didn't know they were ingesting. Psycho Tink commented, "Your fiance's immediate reaction was to get mad and call his dad to tattle on you? Are you sure you don't have a fiance problem? I would go with everybody sucks here. The father-in-law is a jerk who should give you the respect to make your own choices. You were the jerk for not informing everyone so they could make their own choices. Either make one meal for everyone or inform everyone what is what. Your fiance was the jerk for tattling on you like a child." Our next story is, am I the jerk for telling my friend that I was done inviting her to parties? I, 22-year-old female, throw a lot of dinner parties, like a ton. I love to cook, so I always put food on the table and I'm a pretty good chef, I'd say. One of my friends comes to all of them. The problem is, she takes all the leftovers. I swear to God, every single time that there's a scrap left, she takes it. And I appreciate that she doesn't want to waste food. That's not the problem. The problem is, I want some leftovers too. So I told her when we were eating this time, hey, don't take the leftovers, okay? And she was like, yeah, sounds good. Fast forward to the end of the party, she takes the goddamn leftovers. When I noticed later that night, I text her, hey, if you can't stop taking the leftovers, I'm not gonna invite you anymore. She says okay. The next time that she comes over for a party, I remind her when we're eating, don't take the leftovers. She says okay. When she's about to leave, I was sitting near the table. Guess what I see? She's taking the leftovers. So I tell her if she couldn't listen to a boundary I set, the clear consequence that I discussed with her was that she would not be invited to any more parties. She said that it wasn't fair that she couldn't have some, and she was only taking a bit this time. I'm not sure if that's true, but I told her I didn't want her to take any. She says okay and puts them back. Fast forward to the next time I hosted a party, she isn't invited. Apparently she found out through the grapevine. Makes sense, we share quite a few friends, and she got ticked as heck saying that she put them back and I should have invited her again. I think she might be right. Am I the jerk? OP's not the jerk here. They're the ones making the food. They procured the food, bought the food, cooked the food. It's their right to take the casserole home with them that they provided. Shoot, it's not like OP's even taking the food home. It's literally leaving the food where it was procured, cooked, prepared, served. If OP says don't take my food, it's essentially stealing at that point. ELS09 commented, not the jerk. I've never heard of anyone taking leftovers without asking first, and then to take them after being told to stop? I think she's taking advantage of you and she's only angry because she couldn't mooch more food from you. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not making a vacation wheelchair user-friendly? Background, me and my partner, both in our 30s, started long-term planning a trip to Thailand last year that would take place in February 2025 for his birthday. One of his friends and their partner, Matt and Sarah, were going to join us for the latter part of our trip to the south. In September, another one of his friends, Jake, got a great job and was able to afford tagging along as well. In late November, he started dating Tiffany, who is a full-time wheelchair user. She doesn't like the term disabled. The six of us had hung out, but we were surprised when in January, Tiffany asked us for dates or info of the trip, as she had not been directly invited and hadn't been with Jake for that long. Beyond that, the last 2 weeks of our trip where everyone would be with us would basically be out in the country, hiking mountains, camping in sanctuaries, traveling via boat across islands, swimming, ziplining, etc. Having been to Thailand before, I already know that it isn't particularly wheelchair friendly, and even less so the further out of cities that you get. My partner informed her of this and she outright requested that all non-wheel-friendly activities be altered or outright cancelled in order to accommodate her so that she can join Jake. I reminded her that this was my other half's birthday trip that we had planned for him doing the things that he wanted and that everybody else was tagging along for whatever they wanted if they felt like it. She had not been invited and we wouldn't be cancelling expensive and mostly non-refundable plans. She called us ableist, informed us that Jake would no longer be coming with us, to refund him for his portion of the trip, and not to speak to either of them again. Long story short, none of those things happened. Jake did come with us, and when he returned, Tiffany made his life heck, and he broke up with her. Now, the entire friend group has been tagged on Instagram by her. She has a modest following regarding not able-bodied topics. Both Sarah and Matt's jobs have been affected, and both mine and my partner's families and friend groups have said that we should have accommodated her and just played nice. I don't agree, and now my partner is wondering if we are the jerks for not altering plans. So Reddit, am I the jerk in just not seeing it? I don't think OP's the jerk. I just don't think it's fair that, especially something that was planned well in advance before Tiffany came into the picture, and isn't even a trip that's inspired by anything revolving around Jake or Tiffany, that they should just cancel all of these activities that they clearly would love to do and would enjoy to do because one member of the party that's kind of inviting themselves can't. I mean, there's been a number of stories that have popped up fairly similar to this, especially like people who just health-wise couldn't hold up on a hike, being upset that they're not invited or they went with but were getting upset that they kept getting left behind. I just think it's fair when it's the partner's birthday trip that if they want to do these things and they would also love to do so with their friend Jake, that if Jake wants to go and Jake's partner can't do any of those activities, that's something Jake's partner is just going to have to deal with. I mean, would you even want to be in a relationship where somebody limits what you can do in your life with your friends just because it has to always be fully accessible to them too? Aiden commented, not the jerk. If anything, I would have said, you are welcome to join for the first part of our trip, which will be in the city, and if Jake and you want to stay somewhere else for the second part where we would be in the country, that's fine with us. But that didn't have to be said. They are adults and should be able to plan their own time and not put ultimatums for someone else's holiday plans. OP responded by commenting, "The first part of the trip was not open to friends as my partner and I had deliberately set aside that time just for us. We both have high-pressured jobs, my other half travels for work quite frequently, and we wanted time for just the two of us to connect. For that time period, we had reserved couples activities, were staying in nicer places, etc. Granted, if only that time period had been available to best friends, we would have rearranged plans to the best of our abilities. But we absolutely were not interested in canceling or altering the most important time of our trip for somebody that we weren't close to that had only just started dating our friend, and that, as previously said, hadn't been invited. Regardless of being in a wheelchair or not, her presence had never been factored in." Our next story is, "Am I the jerk for mistaking my girlfriend's weight accidentally?" So I, 21-year-old male, was driving with my girlfriend, 20-year-old female, earlier tonight, and we were talking about ideal protein intake based on your body weight. About 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. She was saying how that would mean that she needed like 150 grams per day, which by my mediocre on-the-spot math at the time meant that she was about 250 pounds, which I didn't believe for a second. My girlfriend is about 5'7" and looks to be a completely normal weight. That being said, I remembered a few months ago that my girlfriend said that she stepped on the scale and told me that her weight in pounds started with a 2. Which again, I didn't believe, as I assumed that she would be the same weight as me, if not maybe a bit heavier. I'm 5'4", 150 pounds, and she's a bit taller than me, so I figured it was around 160 to 170 for her at most. But she seemed pretty adamant that she was over 200 pounds, so I believed her even though it didn't seem to add up to me. Flash forward back to tonight, when she said she was 250 pounds, which I knew was an over-exaggeration. I said, "You're obviously not 250 pounds, at most you're like 190, which again, I didn't really believe, but I was going off of the number she had given me a few months ago, minus a few pounds as I think she's lost a little weight since then. What you need to know about my girlfriend is that she is very self-conscious about her weight. Even though I think she has an incredibly attractive body, she always says how she's huge and sometimes refuses to eat meals because of her fear of being overweight. I wouldn't say that she has an eating disorder, but she definitely does not have a healthy attitude towards her body and eating. When I said that guess of 190, she got incredibly upset at me and started crying and asking for me to bring her home, and said that she couldn't believe that I thought she was that heavy. I apologized and told her that I was only going off of the number she had given me a few months before, which she said had been a joke. From my recollection, there was nothing about her tone at the time that suggested it was a joke, even if I didn't fully believe her. I apologized again and told her that I didn't really think she looked 190, and that when she told me she was over 200, I didn't really believe it but went along with it because A, I'll be honest, I'm not that confident in myself when guessing people's weight, and B, it is incredibly hard to know when my girlfriend is joking. She rebuffed me and said that I should be good at guessing weights, as I used to work at a gym, and she said that it's no wonder I got fired. For the record, I wasn't fired, I just got my shifts cut down for reasons out of my control. I reassured her that she looks beautiful and doesn't look overweight at all, and she seems to have calmed down now that we've gotten home. Still, I just want to make sure that I wasn't being a complete jerk to her, because I care a lot about her and try my best to support and reassure her about her body. So it seems like a lot of people are kind of ripping into OP, saying that OP royally screwed up. The thing is here though, OP had a hard time of telling whether or not she's joking, and she essentially said multiple times, more or less something to the effect of 200 plus, OP guessed under that. I don't really think the problem lies with OP, I think it's the person who just has a problem in general with the topic. JJB1718 commented, "I'm surprised by the responses here. In my opinion, it's a clear not the jerk. Listen, you are not responsible for her insecurities. It is not your responsibility to handle or heal her from what she doesn't see in herself. As crude as that sounds, it is true. As much as we want to carry the burden of that, we simply cannot. It's not a healthy dynamic to have, and that's how we lose ourselves in relationships. We are responsible for our own feelings and reactions, nothing more. You spoke in good faith," she responded, being vindictive. Personally, I was not a fan of that. This can be amended, of course. We're not our best when we feel attacked or are angry. but tread carefully. Our next story is, am I the jerk for correcting my in-laws when they mispronounce my name? I, 27-year-old female, have a name that isn't super common in the US, but it's not that hard to pronounce. Think something like Lena, but my in-laws keep saying Lana. It's a small difference, but it makes my name sound completely different. I've been with my husband, 30-year-old male, for 5 years, married for 2, and his parents have never gotten it right. At first, I thought they just needed time to adjust. They're in their 60s, and I get that learning a new name might take a second, but we see them often, and I've corrected them so many times. My husband says that I should let it go because it's not intentional, but at what point does it stop being accidental and start being just dismissive? It's not like they struggle with pronunciation in general. They can say names like Giovanni or Schwarzenegger just fine. My husband's mom even talks about how much she loves learning about different cultures. But when it comes to my name, she always shrugs it off with, well, you know who I mean. The last straw was at a family dinner last weekend. His mom was introducing me to her friend and said, "This is our daughter-in-law, Lana." I laughed a little and said, "Almost, it's Lena." She sighed and said, "Oh, you're so particular," in front of everyone. It was embarrassing. I just smiled and let it go, but later, I told my husband I didn't think it was fair. He got defensive and said that I was making his mom feel bad over something so small. I honestly don't think I'm being unreasonable. I'm not asking them to learn a new language, just my actual name. But now I feel like I'm being that person, overly sensitive and nitpicking. My best friend says that I should just answer to it because older people don't change. But I don't want to set the precedent that my name doesn't matter. Am I the jerk for continuing to correct them? OP is 1,000,000% not the jerk. If you had like a very difficult name to pronounce, maybe I could understand them having issues with it. I'm an American and I love basketball, and in the NBA there's a lot of players who come from all kinds of foreign countries. So one of the best players in the league is named Jokic, Jokic. And then there's some who come along with multiple accented letters, so their last name is Vucevic. It's spelled Vucevic, so a lot of people will say Vucevic or Vucevis or Vukovic. And then you start getting into the really amazing, awesome long names that are super complicated that you feel like are created solely to be like a star basketball player, like Giannis Antetokounmpo or Victor Wembanyama. But if it's just the difference between Jane and Joan, either they have a very legitimate speech impediment or problem, or it becomes intentional with how often OP's made it a point to point out you're getting it wrong. Traditional Bug 2046 commented, "What are you being particular about? That people know your actual name after 5 years? They're almost certainly doing it on purpose, right? Your husband sucks. How can he say that you made his mom feel small by this one incident when he doesn't give a crap that they can't get your name right after 5 years? Of course that will make you feel small. Have you discussed this with him over the years? How is he okay with this treatment of his wife? What's he doing about it?" I'm really curious if there's some sort of racial or cultural dimension at play. 5 years is a long time without any underlying issues. OP responded commenting, "Yeah, that's exactly what's been bothering me. 5 years is a long time to keep getting it wrong. At this point, it feels like a choice. My husband keeps brushing it off like it's not a big deal, but I don't really think he gets how dismissive it feels. I've brought it up before, but he just says they mean well and I should let it go. Not sure how to get him to actually see the problem without it turning into a bigger fight." Our next story is, am I the jerk for changing my family's last name secretly while not informing anyone? I, 38-year-old female, got married 3 years ago to my husband, 41-year-old male. I changed my last name to his immediately following. My relationship with my in-laws was never super, but it was civil until about 2020 when our differences became obvious and were hard to reconcile. They have never welcomed me into their family and never put forth any effort to be a part of our lives. At first, my husband just said things like, "They're like this with new people, this is just how they are." Over time though, they've not only managed to alienate me, but my husband as well. They've implied that I was a gold digger, have called me quite a few unpleasant names. My husband had enough with them during our first year of marriage, and when he went low contact with them, they tried guilt, manipulation, and passive aggressiveness to get him to resume what we call his previous role in the family, being the one to do all the work in the relationship. When that didn't work, they basically cut us out. They never called much before, but now they never call and then act like it's our fault they don't and play the victim constantly. I have BPD, and my new last name just didn't feel like me, especially considering his family. After my diagnosis a year ago, my therapist explained sometimes people with BPD struggle with this, since we struggle with identity as well. So it's been talked about a lot. My husband had suggested we both change our last names. I thought it was an interesting idea. I didn't want my maiden name back because it's hard to spell and pronounce and not at all common in our country. I liked his last name because it was such a common last name. We talked about this for about a year and settled on my grandmother's deceased maiden name. It's common-ish, easy to say and spell, and we feel honors my family who we have to thank for our lovely life today. It was surprisingly easy. We set up a court date, filled out the papers, had a hearing all within a few weeks. Then we changed it on social media. His family found out and is ticked. Some of my family found out and are ticked. They said we had no reason or right, what have you. I told all of them that it was a decision between me and my husband and it was not up for debate. On his side, they cut us off and never even talked to us. On my side, no one owns the name and it left with my grandmother when she died. One of my aunts tried to say that I needed their permission. In my opinion, the only permission I would have needed would be my grandma or my father, both who have passed away. My mother thought it was a great idea, and so did my siblings. We are getting bombarded. We're basically greywalling, but it's not like it was a rash decision. We're both very happy with the change, but the amount of backlash I've been getting has me wondering if we effed up by not announcing it or telling people in advance. I don't think OP owes anyone anything. There's no permission they have to ask for. If they want to change their last name to something that they can legally change their last name to, more power to them. I hope their family loves them for who they are and not for only just what's on their mail envelope. AITA For commented, "Not the jerk, your name is no one else's business and you don't need anyone's permission to change it. Just ignore the complaints, they'll get over it." OP responded commenting, "Thank you, I want to ignore them, but they are getting to me. My in-laws know hardly anything about me, but man do they make some mean judgments." Our next story is, am I the jerk for asking my boyfriend's mom to call me by my actual name? I, 30-year-old male, have a name that, in English-speaking countries, is usually a gender-neutral nickname. Think Alex, Charlie, Frankie, etc. I'm half Asian, and in the country of my name's origin, it's a unisex name that isn't short for anything. Since I first met my boyfriend's, 46-year-old male, mom, 70-year-old female, she has repeatedly asked what my name is short for. I've told her it isn't short for anything, and different languages just have different naming conventions, but she keeps asking anyway. She also makes other related comments that make me uncomfortable, asking where I'm really from, that it doesn't make sense for me to have a name from country A if I'm really from country B, that she hates the trend among young people of having gender-neutral names and that I must have a proper name she can call me. I've talked to my boyfriend about it, and he says he gets why it's uncomfortable, but doesn't want to bring it up because she wouldn't understand. I've started clarifying what my name is and asking to leave it at that because I'm sick of answering the same questions every time. Last time we saw her, she greeted me by calling me the long version of my name. For example, Alexis instead of Alex. I didn't say anything, but my boyfriend laughed, assuming it was a joke. However, she continued to refer to me by this name, despite mine and my boyfriend's corrections, until I eventually snapped at her to stop. I'm usually polite in trying to divert these kinds of comments, but being referred to by a Western name really ticked me off, and I said something like, "Can you stop this bull crap with my name, please? I've had enough of it now, and it's freaking racist." She got really upset, saying she couldn't believe I would speak to her like that. I left the table, and my boyfriend shouted after me to come back and apologize, but I went outside to calm down. Eventually, my boyfriend came outside to tell me to apologize for swearing and calling her racist. I said I would apologize for swearing because I shouldn't have been disrespectful, but I wasn't going to apologize for calling what she said racist. He said she doesn't see it as a race thing and she just finds my name a little funny. So I told him to forget it. I was going to drive home and he could get an Uber by himself. I left by myself and he came home later. I apologized for leaving without him and he said he understands why I was upset, but I need to apologize to his mom because she's really hurt that I called her a racist. I said that I hadn't called her a racist and that I wanted to apologize for swearing, but I didn't want to apologize for saying that what she said was racist, because then she'll just keep doing it. However, I'm worried I'm wrong to be so stubborn because my distinction between saying something racist or being a racist feels kind of pedantic. And because she keeps phoning my boyfriend to tell him that he shouldn't allow me to talk to his own mother like that. So, am I the jerk? The problem I have here is, as much as somebody wants to try to argue like the semantics of what OP said and whether or not it meets the level of racist, that's one thing, but historically, time and time again, OP has been disrespected over and over, and now that OP finally lashed out due to how they're being treated, now OP is the one that has to come forth and apologize? I don't think so. Greek American Dom commented, "Not the jerk. Do not apologize. Instead, talk to her." For the record, it is definitely intolerant, with the end result being that it is racist. You need to start with your boyfriend. Explain to him that what your mother did is not about accepting someone with a different background than hers. At best, she is very selfish. At worst, she is in fact intolerant of those from different backgrounds and/or race. For that reason, you will not be apologizing. If anyone needs to apologize, it is her, but you aren't done yet. It's his job to manage his mother. It's his job to protect you from her behavior. He should have stopped his mom and clearly stated, "Mom, this is X, not AITA For," every single time. At some point, he should have escalated to, "Mom, we are leaving. We'll come back when you apologize and just use X." Be clear that you will not cave to keep the peace with her. When people keep the peace to placate jerks, the jerks win. You will not be visiting his mom again until she apologizes. He has to figure out what to do. OP responded commenting, "Thank you for this. I'll definitely have a conversation along these lines with him." It's especially frustrating because, in a sense, he gets that this is what he should be doing, but he always just ends up placating her in the moment and apologizing to me for her behavior afterwards. I get why he does it, but I've seen her when she's mad at him, and she can be extremely cruel with him. But it still would feel so much better knowing he had my back in situations like this. Our next story is, am I the jerk for not using my brother as our real estate agent? Am I the jerk for not including my brother? My husband and I just purchased our dream home for $1.2 million and sold our old house for $800 grand. We both work very hard and are very comfortable financially. We have 3 kids. My husband's stepfather passed away and left us a good chunk of money, so we decided to search for our dream home. I went online and found a local agent. We've used the same agent for the last 3 years with no luck, until now. After being outbid and/or not wanting to settle, we finally found what we were looking for and got the house. My brother is a new real estate agent and has 0 experience. He's never sold a home. During our house hunting, about 2 years into the now 3-year hunt, he asked if he could get involved. He said his friend is a well-known agent with a lot of experience and that she would handle everything and beat any commission our realtor was offering, while training him for free at the same time. I told him that we were happy with our agent and we weren't interested. A few weeks later, my husband had dinner with my brother and our mother. I was busy and could not attend. He gave my husband his realtor's business card and said basically the same things to him that he told me. We never reached out to his agent or let him join in on our home search. It's our money and our life. We didn't feel obligated to help him. After we moved into the new house, he sent my husband a mile-long email explaining how hurt he was by our decision to exclude him from the process. He even brought up ancient history from our childhood, which I won't get into. He said he feels uncomfortable around us now and would prefer that we exclude him from our lives. My husband responded to his email with multiple reasons why we never reached out to him. 1, we forgot he was in real estate. 2, we have no relationship built up with his friend/agent. 3, we would hate to have to sue a family member. 4, it would be against our ethical, moral values to switch agents. It ticked me off that he wrote an email to my husband. I refused to respond to his email. I feel he's delusional and a lunatic. If he doesn't want to visit us and play with the kids anymore, that's fine with us. He's struggling financially, so I do feel bad for him, but this isn't on me. He's renting a room at our mom's townhouse and doesn't seem to have much going for him, which is his own fault. He's never asked us for money and we've never offered any. I wish him success, but I don't know why he thinks his big break into the real estate world had to come from us. Am I the jerk? So there's a lot to the story that I say OP isn't the jerk, but the one thing that really sticks out to me is like he went and told both of you guys clearly like, hey, my friend is a good real estate agent and I'm trying to get into this business. So OP turning around and saying, we forgot he was in real estate. Like really, are people supposed to believe that you just forgot after he separately told both of you? To be fair, as much as you may want to argue you should just let him down and make sure he knows you just don't want to go with him, OP at least in their one-on-one did say that. Lacey Pauline commented, everybody sucks here honestly. Saying you forgot he was in real estate was a lie, especially as he reminded you both and asked you both multiple times about being your agent. You had no obligation to use him as your agent, but you were a jerk about how you handled it, and his reaction also makes him a jerk. It sounds like you honestly dislike your brother and you intentionally use this as an excuse to be spiteful. Our next story is, am I the jerk for canceling on a day out with my friend after she brought in someone else who would be excluded? This is one of those things where it eats at me all day even though I know I'm probably right. My friend, 19-year-old female, and I, 18-year-old female, have been planning a day out for a while, almost 2 weeks. It was meant to be on a Saturday. We were meant to go get custom phone case designs and just enjoy each other's company for a whole day. Yesterday, however, she told me she's made a new friend, 18-year-old female, recently, and she wanted to bring her along. I didn't even know them. I told her not to because I wanted the day to be just the two of us. Also because I felt bad for potentially excluding the new girl from the custom phone case making since you had to have a pre-booking, and I didn't know if there were spots left. She insisted it was fine and she can just tag along anyway because she didn't have enough time any other day. I thought it was weird, but I agreed on the terms that I could get to know her before then, and if there were still free spots at the place, because that's the only way I would be comfortable with it. She agreed. We did meet, she was sweet, but there were no spots left on the custom phone case design. Friend decided to veto everything we agreed to and insisted she come along either way without even telling her about the activity that she wouldn't be in on. I confronted her about this and she waved it off, telling me that she would just be fine and that it wasn't serious. I did think it was quite serious. I didn't like the fact that we were just going to make her stand there and watch. I decided to tell her that I wasn't going if she didn't say, and since we each paid for our own, I would just cancel it and go myself some other time. She's ticked at me and even sent her boyfriend to text me about how it's not that serious, bro, and I overreacted. I don't regret it, but it eats at me whether I've actually overreacted or not. I am quite the snowflake. So Reddit, am I the jerk? I don't think OP's the jerk. They were never really in on the third person coming into the friend date anyways. Layer that on top of it being really awkward that they come along and then have to play custom phone case cuck in the corner while you go and do all the activities yourself between the two of you. I'm not a very socially outgoing person, so I'm right there with OP from the get-go of, I don't know this person, it's scary, I thought it was just gonna be the two of us doing two-person friend things. Loud ad 1515 commented, you are allowed to cancel plans when they change, no issue there. I am curious how the other girl felt about this though. You frame it that the main issue was the other girl not being able to actually decorate the phone case, but she might have been totally cool with just watching. I had a friend like that before, who really just preferred to watch creative activities since she wasn't a particularly creative person herself. She loved to watch us make candles or paint pottery, but never wanted to make them herself. Are you sure everyone was on the same page? You might have thought you were making her watch, whereas she might have been thinking she's getting to watch. Our next story is, am I the jerk for calling the police on a 2-year-old child running around my neighborhood unsupervised? This happened hours ago. Some little kid was outside playing with my boys in a suburban neighborhood. He was 2 years old, couldn't even talk yet. If I had to guess, he probably had only been walking for 8 months, he was that young. He was out there with his cousin/sister who was only 7. She didn't know how she was related to him when I asked, is that your brother? I have no idea who either of these children are. I have seen the sister/cousin before in the neighborhood, but where she lived or what her name is, I couldn't tell you. So I called the non-emergency number and told them, hey, there's this 2-year-old little boy out here without an adult and his 7-year-old sister. What do you want me to do? And the dispatcher told me to keep them there and they would send an officer out. She asked me to stay on the phone until the officer got there, and while waiting, they tried to leave, so I told the dispatcher that, and she said that she wanted me to keep them there so the officer could talk to the kids' parents. So I asked if they would stay, and they did. The officer finally showed up, and right when he did, our neighbor came out and was like, "Why did you call the police? This isn't a police matter. This child is not my neighbor's child." I had until tonight a good rapport with my neighbor, so I knew it wasn't theirs. I was like, "Ma'am, this boy can't even talk yet, he's so young." And she started screaming at me, saying that I should have taken him into my house and kept him safe. I said, "I'm not taking some 2-year-old kid into my home without the parents knowing. I'm a 32-year-old male." She kept screaming at me saying, "We take care of the kids in our neighborhood. If it was your kids, I would do the same. You let them run around without you out here. What if you were miles away and you found out that someone called the police on your kids?" Which isn't true because my kids hate that I only let them outside if I'm with them. She said I'm a bad person because I'm treating it like he's neglected. She told the officer that she will handle it and started walking the boy home. I'm dumbfounded and embarrassed. Like, what the freak was I supposed to do? Just let this little kid run around the neighborhood? The cars use our street as a drag strip because it's so straight and long, and this kid couldn't even form words, he was that young. The officer just let her leave with the boy and didn't even go talk to the parents. The whole neighborhood came outside to see what was happening because this lady was screaming at me. So, am I the jerk? Look, I don't know if that lady knew the kid or the kid's parents. Seems to me like they probably do, hence that crazy reaction. Otherwise, why would they be like that? It's not like the cops are showing up to arrest the kids. Like, what are you freaking out about, lady? This is a 2-year-old child running around on the street with no supervision. You don't call the police on children? Yeah, no, we're calling the police on the lack of parents, not the children. Fickle Toe 1724 commented, "Not the jerk. The children in question could not give names or an address, phone number, or relationship? No 7-year-old should be out in the neighborhood alone with a toddler. I am ashamed of the officer. He should have gone with them and talked to the parents. That little one is going to get hurt. The parents are irresponsible. Thank you for doing your best to look out for those kids. Your neighbor overreacted and was rude." But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely crazy Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.